loop on. We're gonna go from there. What's up? What's up? What's up? It is. I don't know what it is. Today is freaking.
It's
It is
Monday.
Monday. It is Monday, and Monday is doing what Monday does. We are here, Deacon Board Podcast. We are on. It's cracking. Listen, I have some guests today that are dope. Miss Shanita Hubbard is here to talk about her new book, The Ride or Die Chick, a Feminist Manifesto for the well-being of Black women. I got that right without reading it too. I have, of course,
I'm so proud of you.
I'm joined by Ebony and Ashia Simpson. We're gonna kick it off right. 30 seconds. We'll be back.
You said Ebony and Ashia like we married. Don't do that.
I mean, Ebony, Ivory live together in perfect harmony. All the same thing to me, you know. I like our background music, you know. I still like my background music, okay? I like my background music. So welcome back to Deacon Board Podcast. I am trapped today. No, that's not trapped. I have these four lovely ladies here today. It's been a long 2 months since we've been.
Where's the fourth lady? Where's the fourth lady? Is
three.
she visible? Is she cast?
It might be one. You know why? Because I'm thinking about the guest in the next segment. So don't worry. But there's gonna be more coming. Damn it! Don't correct me like that in public.
Okay.
No.
Sorry.
See, that's that male patriarchy thing that's going on that I'm getting slapped up about later today. You see Shanita? Did you see Shanita? Did you see Shanita's whole eyebrow raised up? She was like, "Did you just say that?" No. Listen. So tonight we have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about where we've been, what we've been doing. We're going to get into Shanita's book. The book is dope. Even the fellas, go get the book. I listened to the book. I had some questions. She and I talked earlier. Because I had a question. I had to ask her a real question on it. Yes, she wrote it for the well-being of Black women, but I think Black men can benefit from the book also, most definitely. So I'm going to have everybody go around, introduce themselves. I'm going to start with our guests first, and then Ebony and Ashia can come in after that, and then we're going to get started.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Shanita Hubbard. I am the author of the book Ride or Die, a Feminist Manifesto for the Well-being of Black Women. And I just want to jump in and just add a bit of an amendment. So yes, I wrote it for Black women, but who do I want to read it? Anyone that respects Black women, anyone that has Black women in their lives, whether it's romantic, professional, or values us, right? Anyone that cares about the well-being of Black women, I want you to read it too. But I just specifically wrote it for the sisters though. It's for us.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Ebony. What you been up to? Because
baking. I'm sorry. I actually perfected my sweet potato pie.
Hey.
And I was threatened by my best friend's mom. She told me I can never come to her house again without one. So that is the seal of approval for me. And yes, I will be marketing these soon. I'm kidding.
No, you're not. I mean, your
brother.
I'm
not about to be baking for the rest of my life.
I mean, it's good money though. I'm gonna tell you why. But go ahead, Ashia. Go ahead.
What's up, y'all? I haven't been up to no. I've been in a rest mode, trying to.
You've been in church.
There you go. I've been in church. I received an elevation in church. Working on the podcast, coming back, Sex and a Save Girl.
Yeah.
My book is dropping in January, so I'm on it.
You might want to take Sex and the Save Girl to OnlyFans just so you don't get in no trouble with the church.
I had to back it up to try to fix it because I was walking on edge with it. But hey, it's my life. It's a bunch of church girls' life. So hey,
that's right.
Ashia,
yes.
Do you know Candace Marie Bembo?
No, I don't.
Oh, you would love her work.
Okay, I'm going to check
she
out.
She wrote something like that. I'm trying to remember. It's like for color girls who tithe to the beauty supply store, something like that. Her book is.
I'm going to check it out. I'm going to check that out.
I think I read it in like a day. It's dope.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Full disclosure, I remember I actually tweeted this a while ago. I said, these people from the church are just like, oh, we're so excited to have a book club discussion. And I said, if it's not Candace Marie Bembo, I'm low-key nervous when people from the church be like, can we interview you? Because I'm like, you sure? Because she's an incredibly...
Well, I have to get you on my podcast, Shanita, because I think we will work well together on that.
I had to tell Shanita.
I think so too.
I had to tell Shanita earlier that she was like, I'm nervous because, this isn't really a church-friendly book. And I'm like, yeah, well, we're not really a church-friendly podcast either.
Right, wait a minute, Ebs, you missing something today. What's going on?
What am I missing?
Where that
Obama?
She's not missing it. Trust me. That's smoke.
Oh, it ain't missing. Oh, okay, okay.
Right
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
I was, for the record, I wasn't nervous, Dante. I was apprehensive because, like I said, on my list of tour runs and like press runs, because I've been doing press like maybe from a couple of weeks before the book drop and pretty much every day, for the next month or so. Nowhere on there did I imagine or even think that it would be anything anybody's deacon board. So
probably because of the content, they smacking themselves like we did this, we did all of this, and no, but listen. So y'all know me, Dante. It's been a long 2 months. We have been dealing with, the last time we were here was in September. We did our season 3 debut. It was a dope show, and then we got hit with a couple of bombshells. Of course, I was in Dubai with Amir and Hassel. So Hassel might be joining us later on tonight, depending on how he's feeling. And then work obligations, and then we had dealing with the death of a brother. Which threw us for a loop. And that's one show that we probably need to do also in the near future, is talking about how to cope with death. Not only coping with death, but also preparing, your loved ones for that. Because if nothing else, when he passed away, it taught me a lot of lessons. So, rest in peace to my brother, Greg. But yeah, we're back. We're going to make it happen. So let's get into it right now. Let's get into Ride or Die. Let's talk about the book. I should have put the graphic up, so forgive me for not putting the graphic up, but the graphic is dope. You can go on my page and see it. It's up already as a picture. So Shanita, talk to me about the book. What made you write this book?
Okay, well, I don't know if I remember the particular day when I was like, I'm going to write about this. I didn't know it was going to be this book, but I knew that, I was going to let the chopper fly because I had some stuff to say. I remember I used to be like a million years ago. I was a project director in New York and the South Bronx. And part of my job was to design alternative to incarceration programs for nonviolent offenders. So I spent months putting together this meeting, just trying to bring in all these people in the same room. You already know how you're trying to do that, right? When everyone is busy, it's almost impossible, right, to get a meeting on a day. So I finally did. I got the DAs and the judges and all these people, like these, what we call community stakeholders, at the table together. And it was like the meeting had just started. And it was my meeting I called. And it was like just started. And I remember my daughter's name came across my screen. I'm like, SHIT.
Wait. Yeah. You can say shit.
Okay.
Go ahead. All right, go ahead.
All right. Well, I mean, you read my book, so you already know what you're getting.
I already know.
So my daughter's name came across my, I was like, oh my gosh, my daughter's school called. So I had to leave this meeting that I spent months planning for and to go play Superwoman, pick my daughter up from school because there was an emergency. And, I just had to handle it. So I remember I was jumping in the car and I put on Nas on Pandora, and he's forever in my top 5. His ranking may change, but, he lit it pretty solidly. And right. I remember the song One Love came on, and that was always one of my favorite songs from Nas. And it is his open letter written to his friend that's incarcerated. And if you peel back the layers, at the root of this song is a story about mass incarceration and how it impacts us. And I remember in that moment, I started doing with one of my favorite writers, Dream Hampton calls, when she talks about talking back to hip hop. When you start you're like, that sounds crazy. Not even talking about oh my gosh, don't call us that. But I remember in that moment talking back to the song thinking, wow, we had this large, massive discussion. And to this day, that's One Love is just hailed as one of hip hop's classics, definitely one of Nas's classics. And he completely either reduced or ignored or diminished Black women's, the story around incarceration with Black women. Because there's 2 mentions of women in there. A chick who decided to not ride this bit out with her man. So, who's out there living her life. So, that makes her a snake, quote unquote, according to the song. And then a guy's mom who's crying over him. But there's a myriad of Black women that are impacted by incarceration. Forget, that we are arrested too, but there was all of these laws. I could be here all day, unpacking that. But the point was, we were completely missing from that song, which I was like, this is kind of indicative. This is absolutely indicative about how we talk about mass incarceration in this country. We'll talk about it as if it's exclusively impacted Black men, but that's a really skewed perception. So I remember That was it. That's when the baby was born. Because I was like, I'm gonna write a song, and it's gonna called. I'm gonna write a book. It's gonna be called the B-side. I'm gonna amplify all these missing narratives. So that was the original version. Like that's when I knew I wanted to do this.
Yeah,
and here we are.
And you know, you have a chapter in your book about being that woman, being that quote unquote ride or die. And I was when I'm listening to the book and I'm getting mad. I was mad. I was like, why are you doing this? Why are you dealing with? Why are you? What you paying this for? Who? You're not even paying it because you want to keep him happy while he's in jail or wherever, or club fed wherever he was. And it just so I guess, you know, the question was for me, the question was why did you feel that you had to do that and be there by his side? Not only you, but why do our collective, why do they feel that way? And maybe I should go ahead.
Sorry,
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And that was Coltrane. That was Coltrane. Coltrane's a guest. Yeah, Coltrane's a guest.
Coltrane is part of Deacon Board.
He's part of the Deacon Board. So it really, you know, that piece, you know, I wanted to ask you, why did you feel that way? Or why is it something that was ingrained in how we're raised that we feel we have to stand by your man type? And it's not just Black women, by the way, because there was a whole country song about stand by your man also back in the day. So where does that come from?
Okay, so just a bit of a context for anyone who's listening who hadn't had a chance to read the book yet. Dante's referring to the opening chapter called Ride or Die, and he's referring to a season in my life where the guy, Anthony, in the book, who I was with, Anthony's not his real name, but that's
quote unquote, yeah.
So he had a warrant for some stuff that for a whole life he used to live years before I met him. So he ended up getting incarcerated for that. And I ended up riding out the bid with him, doing the whole bid with him. So your question is, why the hell did you do that? I mean, there's layers to that answer, right? And although it's, yes, you can, and it's so funny. After the Tamron Hall show, white women come up to me all the time and they be like, this applies to white women too. So you just did the same thing, right? Yes, there is a stand by your man thing. So maybe so I would say on some levels, this does apply to white women, right? But there is a really unique, specific thing with Black women and how who our brothers are to us. Like we are innately, deeply, like really protective over you guys because of our shared history and a million other things. And then also, I'm 42 years old, right? So I grew up under the whole endangered Black man trope, right? Like we have to protect the endangered Black man. We all were just conditioned to always protect our brothers as if we weren't impacted by the same dangers, but that's a whole nother story. And protecting our Black men isn't wrong. But I'm just saying where it's not innately ingrained in us, this is who we are. And it's perpetuated throughout our community, right? It's perpetuated that you see it in our families, you see it in our communities, you see it in our churches. And one of the things that I wanted to point out is that my example is possibly a more extreme version, right? A lot of us are not doing bids with men and just like, you know, and then even in the song Ride or Die Shit, he's Jadakiss is talking about, you know, what's his version of a ride or die woman. And he's talking about, she's killing his enemies, right? Yeah, we might not be out there riding out of bed with somebody, and we're certainly not killing our man's enemies, but we are conditioned to kill pieces of ourselves. You know, if it means protecting this man, we'll kill our own dreams.
Absolutely.
To nurture somebody else.
And it goes back so far. Like,
yes,
our moms were taught that, their moms were taught that, their moms were taught that, but
it's generational.
But sometimes you'll get that elder that says, don't worry about them going about your own way because they had a certain experience that they can't really share, but they want to let us know that it's okay to not go this path. And I wish we had more of those aunties and grandmas around, because these younger generations are starting to see.
That's us now, because the judge broke us up.
I blame
the judge break me up every time. So it is what it is.
I say BET's fault for everything, like how women are portrayed and all that. I always say it's because of BET, but we have to be the anti to show them that, that is a way to live life, but there is also another way to live life. You don't have to, these things are choices. You don't have to do these things. And with your book, it kind of reinforces that, because like in your chapter where you basically parallel rap music with the church, like I'm listening to that and I had to rewind and I was like, what did she just say? Because it hit so hard. And I never really put it together, but it's exactly the same thing on both sides. So they always, people in church will tell you don't mess with the secular world, and it's the same, but it's the same thing with a collar. So where are we getting anything different? We have to be the ones that are different.
I want to give context because I don't want people to get. I don't know what that sound is in the background.
Yeah, I was trying to find out. Is that your phone going off? Oh, that's her. Never mind.
Oh, okay. For context, she's referring to my chapter called My Sister's Keeper, right? And it's unpacking a very unique form of homophobia that's typically displayed between Black women and our queer sisters. And I was talking about how I became, in the book, in that chapter, I'm sharing how I became desensitized to my own homophobia. Because just like it's embedded in before I became a hip hop head, of course it's embedded in hip hop, but it is embedded in our church, right? It is embedded, sometimes if you just drop them, if I just printed out like some of the sermons from like some pastors and put the side by side with some of the lyrics, for some rappers, minus the physical violence, the vitriol is so similar. So I was really conditioned to, around my views, around my homophobic views in the church when I was younger. Like I didn't even realize it. So it was a natural transition to gravitate towards similar lyrics in hip hop.
You know what? I can agree with that, because back in the day, the older generation of preachers, they were really hard, especially if you were in a quote unquote holiness church. They were really hard on the do as I say type situation, not as I. And the problem with the do as I say type situation, when you found out what they were actually doing, if you didn't have a foundation and personal relationship with God and Christ yourself, you would run away from the church, because you'd be like, oh, these dudes are just, they're hypocritical assholes, and I don't want to have anything to do with them. So I get what you're saying around that. And I understand it. So my time is done. I'm going to turn this over to Ebony and Ashia. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be listening in, but I know they have some very specific questions, but I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you hanging out. We're going to keep this conversation going, because the book is the absolute truth. The book itself, go out and get it. I'm going to put the title back up again. You can go on Amazon and get it. You can go on Apple Books and get it. You can go on Google Play Store and get it. You can go to Barnes & Noble if they still have one in your area and pick it up. I don't even know if they still, you know what? I saw a Borders book recently, and I didn't realize Borders are still in business.
Borders still exist?
Borders is still in business. So you can go to Borders and pick it up. But the book is the truth. Oh, one last question. I know what I had to ask. Your thought process on being in school in South Carolina and dealing with your friend who was always making the sly comments about the New York girls and how the New York girls act, and they didn't want to get they're not wife material because they were hard in. But then there was a shift where you kind of had that attitude about some birds. How did you reconcile that personally? How did you reconcile that? Because in the book, I kind of felt you touched on it, but you didn't touch on it all the way, in my opinion. You know, how you reconcile those two. Go ahead.
In the book, what he's referring to is my roommate Vanessa at the time, where it was very clear to see, for me, even at a young age, to see how she put women in these little boxes, and she judged people that existed outside of the box, like women from New York who are a little bit hard or harder, and she's like, that makes you not wife material, right? Because in her mind, where she grew up, you have to, there's a standard of Black womanhood that you have to perform in order to be chosen. So according to the Southern Belle, we Black women from New York were outside of that, right? So that means we had to change, which I even before I had the language to understand it, I knew that was patriarchy personified. I knew she was putting women in these little boxes. I knew she was performing a version of womanhood in hopes of being chosen. And I knew it was hella judgmental. But what I didn't know is how similar I sounded when you start talking about, at the time, I was far more sexually conservative, like really would judge a woman like, you doing what? Like, you kissing on the first date? Like, super judgmental, really sexually conservative. I would share more stories, but I'm still nervous about a podcast called The Deacon Board, so maybe not. But
yeah, gotta be that. Listen, let that edible kick in. Go ahead, let that.
Now I can't even tell my mama to listen.
No, you can tell. Listen, get well. Your mother know that you may. Let me do this for you. Allegedly. Let that thing.
So anyway, I don't know what y'all talking about, but anyway. So at the time, what I was saying was I was very, sexually conservative, incredibly judgmental, judge girls who have even slightly more progressive views around sex. I was very much like a Lauryn Hill, like showing off your ass because you think it's a trim, like really like that. But I didn't recognize how similar we were until I heard her one day, she just kind of like sounded familiar. I didn't recognize myself in her. I'm like, damn, I'm putting women in these same boxes for different reasons, but kind of still patriarchy, just performing, just manifesting differently.
By the way, that the part of the chapter where you referenced that thing, the song, how now that we know that Lauren didn't really write those songs, how does that?
She was a whole bird the whole time. Like the whole time she's singing these songs, she's like queen of the birds. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I couldn't hold it.
Yeah, so when I was listening to you talk about the song and Lauren, I was like, well, how do you? And for me, I'm like, well, how can I reconcile that piece? Because Lauren didn't write those songs. A couple of dudes wrote them. So
she was still a prototype. Like that was still very much her, right? So that was still like a prototype that she was, putting out.
And that was her image, like
her image that was created.
Lauren and Erykah Badu, they were given this queen mother,
and they played it. They played that role well.
They looked the part, but they were not the part. But it's all about perception. Like men think women should be this virtuous, all adoring, and all this and all that. Yeah, okay, cool. But that's not always going to look like the package you think it should. So you really shouldn't be judging, because I mean, the way guys talk about women with multiple baby daddies, like Erykah Badu has 3. So, but is she still this pillar of womanhood to you? Even though she has these things, like everybody's flawed, and men have the tendency to make decisions for women that we're not aware of. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Because like people will have an idea of what a woman should be in your head, but they're not telling you what that is. They're just able to tell you what you're not.
Well, it's less about them making decisions and more about the problem was when we internalize ideas or standards of womanhood that are not coming from us, right? When we allow men to create these standards of womanhood and we adopt them as our own, and we contort ourselves into these images to try to perform them, whether they be, no matter how unrealistic they are.
Yeah.
But now do women do that towards men also? Is there an image or a being that women want their man to be?
There are.
It's just a question, and I don't know, because I've been married for 27 years, so
it definitely is.
So there are definitely ways that women perpetuate really harmful narratives of what manhood should look like. Right, we're into this thank God, right? We're in this new stage where things like therapy are becoming more normalized in our community, or at least with the younger demographics. I'm sorry, I forgot to take that off. Forgot to put that on silent. Excuse me. Right, so therapy is becoming normalized more.
By the way,
that's my mama. Come on, see, that's what I'm saying. The streets is watching as a you. But so therapy, right? Things like therapy are more normalized with the younger demographic. So you start to have more open conversations, like what is toxic masculinity, right? And I've been having these conversations with other Black men, right? Really, and before you cringe, like when we talk about toxic masculinity, we're talking about ideas of manhood, that attributes that we are defining as manhood that are toxic. Like this whole only emotion I know how to express is anger, because that's what men do. That's toxic, right? That's not every other emotion is going to come out in.
I hate the term toxic masculinity. I think that is this new thing that's out there. Everything is toxic. Everything is toxic. No, it's just shitty. It's just shitty behavior. Some of it's just shitty behavior. It don't necessarily have to be toxic. I just hate that we term it toxic. Bad behavior is bad behavior. That's just me. That's just me.
Well, I think
there is this idea
to give a name to stuff like that, because for years it's been written off as, oh, that's just how he is.
That's just how it is.
You know what I mean? So in order to really pinpoint and give people a good idea of what something is, you have to give it a name. And I think the name that everybody just settled on was toxic masculinity, because of the root of the anger and things of that. So you can't really.
Okay,
we have to call it something.
There is a version of masculinity, right? That we are, like you said, do women perpetuate these harmful narratives? Yes, we do, right? Let me give you, so this guy that I just met, right? So he's like joking but serious, talking about how I'm like, y'all women say y'all want these, y'all want us to be all soft and emotional. And then I remember, I was with, my ex, and I really worked myself up to be able to be, share with her something that was on my heart or whatever. So, and then she was like, well, damn, like which one of us gonna do the crying? Which one of us got the vagina? Like really called him, feminine and insulted him. So he was just like, he laughed it off. He said, but I never shared nothing else after that. So when I say is yes, women, because that's a harmful trope. When you say men don't cry and you got to be all toxic, that's why y'all having heart attacks and dying. Sometimes toxic is fitting because some things will kill you. That's toxic, right? We put these men sometimes in these boxes, like this is what manhood is supposed to look like. And if you can't perform this, and you're not a man. But some of these things that we expect men to perform are harmful. And yes, sometimes women are also perpetuating it. Like when we do things like, I don't want no soft man, and he talking about his feels and shit. Like, sis, you a whole bird, right? But yes, so yes, women also do perpetuate these standards. And yes, toxic is fitting because some of the stuff is toxic, is killing us, and we do.
Okay. By the way, you did homeboy wrong in the mall. There's another chapter where he came up to give your friend a hug and tried to give you a hug, and you kind of pushed him off there. That's cold-blooded.
Later for him. He should have had it right the first time. That's the other problem. When you have platonic friends, you need to cherish your platonic friends, and he did not.
Hold on one second, Ebony. Your internet is acting like Jerry's right now. You may want to go back into the other room. Okay. So one of our co-hosts migrate. So one of our co-hosts,
Oklahoma today.
Shanita, he's in Oklahoma, and his internet is always acting up, and her internet is just going in and out like that.
South Central Compton, Los Angeles today.
Yeah.
Do y'all show video on the podcast, or is it just sound?
We do. It is video, so that's why.
Because my weave is not blended well.
That's okay. Your weave looks fine. Okay, don't worry about it.
Your weave looks good.
Your weave looks good. So we wouldn't even know.
I mean, my edge up is a little bad, so we're all the same right now.
I didn't know you get edge up.
Ooh, that's cold. Anyway.
All right, as dark as it is, I'll call you later on that. So yeah, I know Ebony said, he should have got it together the first time, but come on now. You didn't have to do.
I just feel like people should, because it's already hard for men and women to be friends without other stuff happening. And when you have that, that's something that you should cherish. I have a very few select group of male friends that I love with my whole heart, because I'm able to have those hard conversations with them, and they're able to have them back with me. And for you to have a friend, for you to be a friend like that for him, and him to just kind of not, be honest with you, that bothered me a lot.
Thank you, Ebony. Okay, before you bounce, I'm
not bouncing. I'm not bouncing.
Okay, because you asked me, you said, is there anything that men do that perpetuate? Because you was asking me about the whole ride or die trope, right? And you was like, is there anything? I think you was asking, is there anything that men do that perpetuate that narrative? Is that what you were asking me?
Yes.
Yes,
I did.
Yes, absolutely. Right, there is this societal expectation of on women, right? That like, let's say about gender dynamics in a household, right? There's always this expectation that in most households, bills are 50-50, right? But things like rearing a child isn't necessarily 50-50. A lot of the labor oftentimes falls on a woman, whether it's cleaning, your household may be different, right? But in general, there is this imbalanced dynamic, right? And maybe we can that's on one small level. Hey, let's make sure that we are pouring back into the women that are caring for us. A very small thing, right? In my household, I want to make sure we're pouring back. That's on a tiny, tiny micro level. On a larger narrative is do the work. Like a lot of times, I'm also a professor and I'm a speaker. So sometimes white people will come up to me after I've been talking about race and, all the fun stuff, right? Race and politics or whatever. And they'll come up to me. Hold on, my AirPods fell out. and they will come up to me, be like, oh my gosh, I totally got it. I read this book and I read that book and I read all your stuff, which is fine and which is wonderful. But keep that same energy when you're amongst your white circle, right? Go tell your grandfather that says nigga with the hard ER, everything you're telling me, right? Go do the work when it's hard. So in terms of men, if you are a brother that understands what misogyny is, right? And understands sexism and patriarchy and all of these awful things that we live and breathe in, right? If you've done the work and you started to at least try to unpack it, teach other brothers, right? Do the work when it's hard. Have these conversations in the barbershop, right? And also hold your brothers accountable. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it took us, R. Kelly is a more extreme example, but the reality is R. Kelly couldn't be R. Kelly for decades upon decades upon decades without an ecosystem that allowed that to rock. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no one was, everybody, some people had to lie for him. Some people had to turn a blind eye. Like, right? So there's a lot. So hold your peers accountable. Yes, R. Kelly is a more extreme example, right? But there are things that are simply harmful. Have those hard conversations with them. Hold your peers accountable. Give them the literature. There's so many people that's already done the work. Buy them these books. That's what you can do to make, on a micro level, take care of the woman that's in your life. On a macro level, try to hold your peers accountable to do the same.
That's fair. I mean, that, and it goes both ways. And it goes both ways. That's fair. All right, go ahead.
Are automatically expected to do these things, and for the most part we do. But then, and this is why when we first started talking about doing this book, I said I don't think we should have any men in the discussion. I say that because it's going to be a not all men festival, and that's not what it's about. And you have to let that go. No, we're not talking to you, but we're talking to people like you. It doesn't have anything like. Don't internalize your peers. Yeah. If this isn't who you are, then there's no need for you to internalize it. Mm-hmm. So, because I told him, I was like, I don't know if we should have any men in this conversation, just for that one reason.
Right. The only thing I want men to do is exactly what he did. Is like, what can I take away? What can we do? Let me give you your marching orders and go out and make life easier for us.
Right. Exactly. And the book, there were parts that I enjoyed it because I felt like I was like in your life going on a journey with you. And because you write so clearly, and so I love, I'm a writer as well, but I really love your writing.
Thank you.
It was good because you were able to, even from your own perspective, to give us other people's perspectives. And I really appreciated that about your writing.
I tried. Thank you.
I'm a writer whore. Like, oh my God, just tell me more about your process. That's me. So let me back up.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I tried. That was hard. Except for in WAP. I don't know. Oh, I thought you was frozen for a second. Except for in WAP, I had to like bring my friend and we're just gonna have a joint conversation because we think so differently about that around just sex in general.
Right.
I enjoyed that chapter, but go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay.
No, I'm going back off camera now. I enjoyed that.
I remember reading something around the time that song came out, and I looked at it as an empowerment piece for several different reasons. It's not like women haven't been talking like this for years and years and years. You can go back to one of the oldest blues songs, and it's basically she talked about a ding-a-ling and talking about what you're gonna put it in and all that other kind of stuff. So the subjects have not changed. The only thing that have
no business singing, girl. You make my love come down. I didn't know what that song was about when I was little.
You had no business singing it. No business
whatsoever. But and people try to act surprised when we hear a song where somebody's just blatantly saying my wet ass pussy. We've been saying these things all along. Just because they're more digestible for you, like, get over that. But
Sweet Sticky Thing is played on every oldies radio station in the country. We know what
broken.
We know what Sweet Sticky Thing is. I mean, it is just it. Yeah. But so WAP is it's the same thing. It's not a big deal.
I don't understand. I laugh at the alarm. Like, why are you alarmed by? How are you alarmed by this? It makes no sense.
I think like I am very, very pro, as you can see from the chapter. I'm very pro ho. Now I'm very pro very grown women doing exactly what they want to do with their own bodies, with other grown consenting adults. Right? Again, I am very pro grown women doing what they want to do with their own bodies with other consenting adults. Period.
Period.
That's it.
It's business. Like, shoot, how did we get here? How did we get here, people? Somebody had
the point I wanted to make. The point I just wanted to make with that chapter is everybody just mind your own walk. Like, right, really interrogate your own sexual practices, right? Your own sexual beliefs. Like, are you upset? Some people really hate this song because Cardi's not the prototype of who's supposed to get the very coveted, quote unquote, house man 2.0, 2 kids and a dog or whatever, right? Here she was like, my generation is raised like you have to be chaste, you have to be this so that you can be chosen. Here, this ex-stripper is out here doing the complete opposite of everything. Was
said she don't cook, she don't clean, and she got the ring.
But she got the ring.
Even in hip, but she got the ring. She's doing the opposite of everything across the board. Like old school hip hop heads would be like, you're supposed to write your own lyrics. If not, you're at least supposed to be ashamed. She said, I don't write my own lyrics. I don't do none of this. But yes, she is getting the accolades and all these fields for it. So I think there's something about her that just irks people for those reasons.
You know what it is? It's her authenticity, because there are people running around here afraid to be who they actually are, and they hate people who are able to be themselves. They cannot. They can't stand people who are actually able to live in their own truth.
So, what you just said something, and forgive me for butting in your conversation. I'm like eavesdropping, but I'm not eavesdropping.
He's like, I'm leaving.
I'm leaving. I can't leave. Damn it. Oh, we were taught a certain thing, and this is what's fun. There was a meme out that said, everybody wants a marriage like your grandmother and grandfather had. But we don't really have. Once you peel back the layers and find out what type of marriage they had, their shit was messed up. It was horrible. It was really horrendous, because granddaddy had another family or two across town somewhere, and grandmama knew about it, but she stayed with him because, that was her security.
It was toxic.
My family is a product of that. My mother is a product of family on the other side of town.
Wow. So the book to me is dope. I'm glad you wrote it. I wish that everyone would go out and get a copy. Ebony, Ashia, y'all have any other questions for our guest? Because I'm gonna ask her one last question, and she's gonna give me a long answer on this one.
Have you put any thoughts to any monologues? I think this would be dope. I would like to hear you in a monologue form as well.
I feel like my agent low-key sent you to ask me these questions. Because the question, he keeps saying, listen, when's your next project? Are you thinking about this? Are you thinking about that? I feel like he sent you.
And I'm mad that you didn't read the book. By the way, I'm mad at you. I didn't hear your voice on the audio book.
Yeah, who was that lady?
Can we redo that?
No, maybe.
No, but that would make so much more sense with your. It would make so much more sense.
If she can read,
I didn't think I would do.
Them rappers, she messed all that up. I was just like,
no, it would make make everything come together. It would make everything come together.
I never heard it. I heard her one. Like, I remember when I first got my book deal, everything sounded like a lot of money because I was very poor. I was very unmoneyed, as my daughter would say. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna read the audio book. That's an extra $5,000 you're gonna give me just to read my own book. That's not a lot of money to read an audio book. An audio book is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Am I muted?
No. I said it's a lot of work.
I can't hear y'all.
Oh, I can hear you fine. Keep going. Keep going.
Can you hear us? Keep talking.
Keep talking.
Keep talking.
All right. Well, she's trying
to get her chat.
I can't hear anybody. Give me a second, please.
Oh. We can hear you fine. She's having some technical difficulties, which is fine. I can
maybe
drop that Amazon link, Dante. I'm not on my computer.
All right, I'll drop it.
I think my AirPods went dead.
Oh, that's okay. We can hear you fine.
Oh, so I was saying, suppose I know that, and you said that you're a writer. I don't know what your goal is, if you intend to publish or self-publish. So this is a little publishing gem. So I remember at the time, being excited because the figure was what I wanted. Now I'm looking back, there were some things in there. I'm like, shit, I should have, had such a scarcity mindset. This is like a commercial break for anybody that wants to be a writer, right? I had a scarcity mindset. Like, one of the things that was in my contract was that what my current publisher was asking to own my foreign rights. Like if somebody from another country, a publisher from another country wanted to come publish it in a different language. And I couldn't foresee that. I couldn't imagine that there would be a day that this would happen. So I'm like, yeah, sure. My book was out the first week, and this Italian publisher reached out about the rights. I don't even own them.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was inconceivable to me. I couldn't even imagine a world where that was possible.
She just gave y'all that for free. So y'all take that. She just gave that for free.
Don't operate from a place of scarcity. Just because you can't imagine it, don't mean no God don't have it for you.
It's not real. That's right.
Don't mean no God don't have it for you. But at the time, I remember saying, yeah, I'm gonna read my own audiobook for $5,000 because it seemed like, wow, that's a lot of money. That is not a lot of money to read.
Not a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money to read the audiobook, but you probably want to go back eventually.
You probably would kill that. Yeah. I can see that.
But it wasn't,
I started listening today. I could now listening to you. I wish you would have.
I was like, maybe I'll just go back and renegotiate. But I was like, you know what? That's a lot of work. I don't want to do it. And then that's a specific skill. Like people auditioned for that role, and I remember
I googled her. I googled her because I was like,
she does this. Like she does this.
She does lots of them.
She did my favorite book. One of my favorite books, "Warmth of the Sun," by I can't even think of her names right now. But yeah, she's good. So I thought I was like, people do this for a living. They'll be better better than me at this. So
right. But I did enjoy it. But in hearing your voice and hearing the voice behind the words. To me, changed the book. It changed the book for me when I had the conversation with you,
especially the hip hop part. That hip hop, all of that. That changes
you're giving me so much regret.
No, don't regret.
Don't regret.
No, this is not regret. This is y'all.
Moving forward.
When you do your next one, moving forward, know that you lend your voice to your words. Lend your voice to your words.
And get that monologue. I promise you I wasn't sent by your agent.
And get the money. and get the right money to lend your voice to your words. That's that part. They get the money. So the book itself, again, I put the link in there in the chat. Everybody can go on Amazon and order it. Listen, it is go and get it. I promise you, it is well worth of your read, well worth your time. So what's the follow-up? What's the follow-up to this? Because I know that there has to be, it's a manifesto. And with any manifesto, there's an end. So it's either going to come to pass where you're going to get everything that you want in your manifesto. Or somebody's going to die. not die really, but there's a death to something, right? Is there going to be a death to this patriarchy, this patriarchal thing that
I think the ride or die chick is already kind of dying.
The ride or die chick dead? I was going to say
dying.
That.
She's slowly fading away.
I am really, my goal for the book, right? After you read the first chapter, my goal is that you are 100% like, yo, we're going to defund the ride or die industrial complex. We're going to destroy it. We're going to burn this shit down and throw it in the trash. And at its core, and to be clear, like, it is so, it's not genders. I mean, it's not income specific, and nor is it specific to relationship dynamics, because wherever you go, there you are. If you're that person that's constantly pouring out without even thinking that you're worthy of reciprocity, I promise you, you're doing that in your relationship, you're doing that at the job, you're doing it at your church, you're doing it wherever, right? So we're gonna kill that. We're going to center our own well-being. We're going to pour back into ourselves. We want others to do the same, right? So as the book goes on, there's other areas that I want us to, now that we stop riding and dying for everybody, let's focus on these areas in our lives so that we can be better. So what's dying? In a dream world, it would be patriarchy, right? Right now, we're happy to announce I am in agreement that the ride or die chick is dying. I feel encouraged, right? Because these younger girls are talking about hashtag soft life, like just having these open conversations. I'm like, yes, do it, honey. So yes, it's dying. What's the soft life?
Yeah, what's that? I have no clue. Go ahead. School me.
I will tell you how it's explained, but I will also offer.
You got to get some younger friends, Dante.
You got to get some younger friends, baby. But I will also offer my very semi-critique on it. So the soft
Wait a
life,
second. You think you're funny, and you think she thinks she's funny. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna get you later. Go ahead.
Part of the soft life, because come on now. Anyway, so the soft life is like you hear is this hashtag soft life. It's when Black women are being really clear about they're, having unapologetic about having the finer things in life, the soft life. You want to fly first class, do it, sis. Hashtag soft life. You want to use Molly Maids twice a week, do it, sis. Hashtag soft life, right? And I love this, right? I want you to know, and I'm all for that. Like, if you can afford Molly Maids, use it unapologetically, right? Because that's your time, if that's what you want to do. And again, I fly first class, that's me. But I want us to talk about this soft life, because really at its core is setting boundaries, knowing your worth and giving yourself nicer things without feeling like you do not deserve it.
And it's kind of stripping off the superwoman cape, that you don't have to be the superwoman. You can take that up. Black women don't have to be superwoman. You don't have to conquer everything. It's okay to go to therapy. It's okay to feel it's taking off that cape.
It's renouncing the superwoman trope, right? And absolutely. I love all of that. The only thing I would say is that I don't like that it's often discussed in the terms of like capitalism. Like I said, I fly first class, do it. However, let soft life also include things like using no as a complete sentence. Saying, I'm not going here I'm not lying and saying we'll see. I'm gonna say, no, I'm not showing up.
No, I ain't doing it.
That's it, right? Let's talk about creating boundaries and giving ourselves this, because that's still a luxury, right? Giving ourselves this type of self-care and self-nurturing that have nothing to do with finances or money.
And for the 40 plus to get to that soft life, to that no, and to that, you kind of got layers you got to peel back. That's therapy that's needed.
You meant to say for those of us that are 40 plus. Just go ahead.
I said those of us that are 40 plus. I rock my age very well. I love it. Hey, 40 did something to me mentally. 40 did something to my body. 40 did something. So I rock it well, but I think it's a bunch of, don't do it, Dante. I think it's a bunch of layers that have to be pulled back for us. Versus the 21-year-old who is walking into a new life saying soft life is a thing. They are being taught to do that. We were trained to be superwoman. We were trained to be able to conquer everything. So now we got layers we got to peel back and get to the bottom of it.
But that's for everybody, right? They call those of us that travel well, and we travel well. I mean, we travel well. Those of us that we go out to eat, we eat where we want, we drive what we want, we live where we want. They think it's an easy life, but we also were taught the value of smart work. Hard work comes with smart work, but we were taught the value of that so we can live the lifestyle that we want. So if they want to call it soft life or whatever the hell that hashtag is, so be it. It's just life. You do what you want to do when you want to do it.
Yeah, now I see why you guys are like, we should have had this conversation with just women, right? Because it's a very there is a very gendered thing that you're missing here, right? One of the things I wrote about in my book, I can't remember, I think it was the first chapter, when I remember like during a time where my house was just like super unorganized. I'm talking about it's December, girl, and I still got sundress season, sundress up there and high boots and open toe sandals out, just really unorganized, because at the time I'm like teaching 3 classes, writing 4 articles a week, just grinding, like literally writing for like the New York Times and Huffington Post at the same damn time, grinding nonstop in beast mode. So, and I remember at the time trying to look for my daughter's gifts so I could wrap them at night to surprise her. And I'm like, where the hell is her gifts? This is crazy. But, as it turned out, the gifts wasn't even at my house. But I remember in that moment saying, I'm going to hire Molly maids to come in and help me just to like organize so that I can have that time, just for myself. And I literally didn't even say it out loud. It was a thought. And I felt so convicted. I felt so convicted.
Felt like you was trifling, like you couldn't handle it. Like you couldn't.
I could not.
Like you couldn't handle it. You were out of control. Yeah.
But that's a generational thing. That's a generational thing.
Right? I just said that.
You gotta listen, because what I'm saying is, I saw my mom do this. Right? It was like my mom didn't need to hire a Molly maid. She raised 3 kids. My grandmother raised 8 kids, and she didn't need to do this. Right? So I internalized this concept of Black womanhood, and that looks like being superwoman. So that looks like even when you can afford it, you don't do it. So what Dante is missing here, that's a very gender thing. Maybe he doesn't have to unpack that, because I don't know if men has the same type of socialization that we do, right? But if they never had to contend with this whole Black superwoman thing that we've internalized too, right? So I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, like that makes me a bad mother to even think about this. That makes me like, what kind of model am I setting? So I had to unpack all of that, and I still was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. If I'm physically able to do it, then I should do it myself, because my mother never had to, my grandmother never had to. So it's a lot of unpacking. So when people get to the point where they're saying no, hashtag soft life, it's about refusing these gendered norms that a lot of us have had to unpack. And yes, it's generational.
It's really refusal.
Grandmothers do.
What it really is at the base is refusal to give up on ourselves. Like it's us saying we need help. Being soft is opening up and being able to express, hey, I'm having problems with these things. But if you're a single mom and you don't have a partner, what's next? Molly Maids is next, because if you can afford it,
and it's okay.
Anything to take the load a little off of you. I remember when my daughter was little, and I told my daughter's father, I said, I will pay you child support to have my weekends off. I just want my weekends off. Not that I had anything to do. I just didn't want to have the thoughts. And that would have been soft life for me to pay him X amount of money, because I wouldn't have had to deal with X, Y, Z, and I wouldn't have had to carry that whole burden. It's mostly
but the stillness of life does not exist for us. We're not supposed to have stillness. We're not supposed to have the peace.
How can we have that? We have to delegate responsibilities elsewhere. And if there's nowhere else to do it, we got to pay for it. And if we can afford it, it's going to be paid. And that's being soft.
Yep, and exactly. And even like even if you can afford it, you have to know that you deserve it. You deserve it. Like you said, like even if you don't do nothing those weekends, you just want to have them. So when I say
exactly.
So when I say that there's a very gendered like socialization, there's a conversation we were having, Dante, that you wasn't having, even though you were here, right? Because we immediately understood the whole the way women are socialized and this whole superwoman thing. We got it instinctively.
I'm not going to get it.
Separate from what you were saying.
I'm not going to get it because I'm not a woman, right? But I'm married to a Black woman. My mother's a Black woman. I have sisters that are Black women. I have friends that are Black women. I have co-hosts that are Black women.
Right, but you still, and you have what you know is what we tell you. Because I mean, you might say, hey, how you doing? And we tell you one or two things, but it's 25, 45, 70 going on.
Absolutely. And for instance, I've been in a place of quietness, a place as far as business and stuff is concerned. And so I had to talk through that to say it's okay to stop. It's okay not to have this running, this going, and this going, and not feel bad about it. And not feel bad that I am taking a nap in the middle of the day. Not feel bad that I am not running here and there. It's something that is internalized, that even when we're not saying it, dang, I'm not doing as much as I should be. When in all actuality, this season of my life causes for me to be at peace and at a stillness, but we have not been taught that at all.
Neither have we. We haven't been taught that either. We have been taught that you work until you're tired, and you come home and then you work some more, and then you deal with the stuff in the house, and then you go to sleep, and you get up the next morning and you do it again. And Saturdays you have to be at the church to do work at the church, and Sunday you got to be at the church all damn day long. You know, you may watch a football game here or there, but you're working. We're not taught about rest. We're not taught about balance. They don't teach that to us. You know, it's not something that. It's what you're talking about is for your gender. What I'm talking about is in general, because that piece is for everybody. You know, it is.
I think that is such a byproduct of slavery. The way Black people
absolutely.
I think it's very. This is very true for Black men, and this is also very true for Black women. Maybe how we, receive what we consider work. Those different variables may be different, but this whole concept of going, nonstop.
Right.
I think and I think that's a byproduct of slavery.
It's one of those things, because after slavery, what were the rumors about Black people? That we're lazy, that we're dirty, that we're all of these things that we are clearly not. But we fight so hard to be the opposite of what we think people think of us, that we working ourselves into the ground.
We're working ourselves to death. That's what we're doing. We're working ourselves to death. And that's a problem.
It is.
It's a huge problem.
It's awful.
It's a huge problem.
And it's not fair. It's just not fair.
No, it's not.
Shanita, question for you. What is, I'm still working on the book and still going through it. After talking, I know I'm about to go and smash it now and finish it up. But what is the first step? If you could choose one step, that first step for that woman to say that she needs to not be a ride or die chick. She don't need to be that chick right now in this situation. What's the first step for her?
at the very first step, and this is going to look different for everybody, but at its core, it's like, babe, like, sis, you really have to love yourself, like, and know who you are. Like, because I could tell you all day that you deserve reciprocity. You deserve for somebody to pour back into you. You deserve to be so much more. You got your own dreams to build. You don't kill them in the name of anyone else. But if you do not believe that, and you don't see sometimes we've all had seasons in our lives that we struggle with self-love. I don't know if we talk about that as openly as we should, right?
We don't.
That's just the honesty. Like, in this season of my life, I did not love myself like I should. And it was seasons in my life where I just could not see myself as the way God saw me. So my first step, I would be like, I don't know what faith. I believe in faith. Sometimes you got to pray like, God, I need to see this, whether it's a situation or it was you. I need to see me through your eyes. I need to see the version of me that you have, that I believe you. I might not believe anyone else, God, but I'll believe you. So we have to go through that stage where you just asking God, even if that's, you just have to ask God to, whatever you got to do to work on your self-love, that has to be step one. Otherwise, it's like me just pouring some water in this bucket with 10 holes in it. Like, it's not going to matter.
I think you need I really, and this is not from your publisher, but this is from me. You need a workbook with this book. I think your next edition needs to have an accompanying workbook with it.
Well, that's a good idea.
With commentary, because there's a lot of work for everyone to do. Because
it leads to vision,
right.
It leads to dreaming, it leads to purpose. Right. It's so many different places once you get out of that toxic ride or die thought pattern that you can go, but a lot of it is hell because, like you said, you're in this box and you let people put you in that box. So so many different places that this can go. I promise you, Dante didn't hit me up with your publisher information, but
that a lot of feds.
A word. That's how. See how you New Yorkers are.
Nah, but you gave me an idea though. Next time they say, because there's a lot of problems. Like, this is mind blowing. My book has not been out a month yet. I was like, I don't understand why I keep getting this question. But what I'm gonna say is I'm gonna work on the second edition, and I'm gonna throw a little manual to it, some blah 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 blah, some notes. That's a good idea.
I think
vision casting, quite a few things could accompany that.
Because
definitely.
You're a professor. You already know this is a teaching book. You wrote this as a professor. Yes, it is in the voice of your experience, but it's also teaching men and women on the things to do and the things not to do, in my opinion. That's what I got out of it, all the way until the end. All the way to the end. So I appreciate you coming by. Go get the book. Ride or Die.
Tell us how to follow you on social media.
Manifesto. I'm going to get to that right now. I was going to do that.
I'm sorry. You was taking so long. You was taking so long.
This was actually fun.
The title is this long. I had to read the whole damn title.
Yes, right? First of all, I need a shorter elevator pitch. I don't know how to talk about it in a short way, and it don't help that y'all have good questions. The title is long as hell. I do. I need to follow you.
I'm like, I just followed you.
Thank you. So I'm on Twitter. I'm Miss Shanita Renee. MS SHANITA Renee, and on
how long are you gonna be on Twitter for? Because everybody's jumping off of Twitter right now.
Until it blows up. I don't know. I'm gonna ride the blows up. I hate that.
She gonna ride or die. She gonna ride or die.
You gonna ride or die Twitter?
No, I'm not. It's a reciprocal relationship. I make lots of business connections on Twitter.
I hear that.
So and on Instagram, I'm Professor_Nita.
All right.
Any TikTok?
No, I need to. The young people.
Let's get on that.
Over there.
Let's get on that. Drop them 60-second tidbits for them.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Look, that marketing kicking up in me, Dante. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
Is that your background?
Yes.
Get out of here. What do you do?
Drop them. I do a little bit of everything, but marketing, social media marketing, graphic design, websites, all the big gist.
Oh, give me your information.
Yeah, we'll connect. We're gonna connect to everybody. Definitely. I just sent you a message, Shanita. So listen, get at her. Go get this book. Now I have two of my other guests that are coming in the room right now. If you want to hang out, you're more than welcome to. I know you have a busy schedule.
Okay, is that Bishop Hassel?
No, he's not in here yet. He's not in here. I don't know if he's coming on. He should have come on the show, but he knew I was going to get beat up anyway. So he was like, "Nah, you got this."
Hey, he threw you to the wolves.
He's like, "Nah, you got this. You got this." No, listen.
That is my favorite. Even though he married me to that ancient nigga, he's still my favorite bishop.
Wait, what?
To the ancient
nigga.
Let me find which one is ancient. Oh, I have to pinpoint the ancient nigga right now. Oh, good Lord.
There he is.
I still love you, I suppose. You should have said hell no when I asked you to marry us. You should have said, "Thus saith the Lord." Go sit down, bitch. What you didn't.
What they say on the TikTok? Get somebody else to do it.
Get somebody else to do it. Right.
Get somebody else to do it.
Yo, you know what? I'm telling right now. I said, "Yo, she's talking about you. You may want to come in here and straighten her out."
You tell him what I said.
I don't know if he's gonna come in, but listen, I appreciate you stopping by tonight. Like I said, if you want to hang out, we're going to really talk financial markets. Now, one of the things, this goes back to your book, by the way. One of the young ladies that's in here, that's a guest. She does. She has a mortgage company, a real estate company, and a credit counseling, a pre-close or pre-purchase credit agency focusing in on women. Matter of fact, it's called Women in Real Estate. That I think it's a dope brand. And of course, Brian Young is in here, who is with a Home Lending Pal. And then, well, let me bring him in here right now. Sean, save me, Sean. I'm trapped. I'm trapped in here, Sean. He's muted. See, he's muted. See, you got to unmute yourself, man.
My bad. I'm talking.
Been going to
sisters, and I see so much love. Ev, what's up? Ashia, what's up?
He been going to Steak 48 with them girls with them slinky dresses on in the wintertime.
I haven't been in forever, but I was listening to y'all conversation. I really was like, I wish I was here, because I was like, as y'all was talking, I wanted some of that. First of all, love the HBCU sweatshirt. We got much love. I'm a product of two of them. But I really was like loving the conversation. There were some things I wanted to throw some rocks at, and then there were some things I was like, "Yo, that makes sense."
Well, go ahead.
That's why we didn't invite you on here. That's why we didn't invite you on. Keep your rock.
Go ahead. Let me add my favorite. No, don't you go yet. Let me add my favorite.
I got a hard stop at 7. I got to do something else. But y'all have a good night.
Have a good night. We'll talk to you later.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Shanita, for coming on. Ride or Die. A Feminist Manifesto for the Well-Being of Black Women. Go get that book. I'm bringing in our other guests right now. They're coming in the room right now. So I have, of course, everybody knows Sean Cunningham. He's doing his thing. I have Mr. Brian Young from Home Lending Pal. We're going to have them introduce themselves in a moment. And then I have Sharika Miller, who is one of my real estate experts, one of my real estate gurus, and then my favorite counselor. My favorite guy. I don't know why she asked to come on, so I'm gonna bring her in here and see what the hell she gonna talk about tonight. From Newark, New Jersey, counselor Alana Miles. So the segment was dope. Listen, I enjoyed that segment with Shanita Hubbard. Her book is dope. She is doing her thing. But we're gonna do a quick pivot. To talk about the real estate market. So my guests, real quick, introduce yourselves. Brian, if you want to start first, and then I'll go around the room and have everybody else introduce themselves for this second segment. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, pleasure to meet everyone. My name is Brian Young. Why am I so dark? I feel like my name is Brian Young. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Home Lending Pal. We are building a application, a mortgage app that is geared or intended to help people understand what their options to buy are by hiding their age, sex, and race, but also making them more aware of down payment assistance programs, special purpose credit programs, as well as the impact of rental history before they connect to a lender. We are a high-tech growth company, so we have been around for about 5 years now. We've raised a little bit over $4.5 million, and we have a little bit over 45,000 new users per month right now that are downloading our app and helping us build this product to try to close that home ownership gap. So,
all right, Shakika, go ahead. Now, first of all, are you back on East Coast time yet?
I am finally back on East Coast time.
You finally back on East Coast time. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Shakika Miller McIntyre. I am a real estate investor and broker, property manager here in Charlotte. I've been doing this thing now for about 18 years. Absolutely love everything about real estate. And like Brian just said, I'm looking to do what I can to help close the gap in home ownership, specifically with women in color. And so we'll talk a little bit about more about that, I'm sure, in just a little bit. But super excited to be on tonight with all of you.
All right. And then I'm going to go to the bottom there. Queenella, my real estate coach and guru. Go ahead and introduce yourself, please. And tell them what you do, where you're from.
Hello, everyone. My name is Queenella Gibson. I am a licensed realtor in New Jersey and real estate coach. Some will say I'm also an event director and event planner.
Yeah, you are.
Because lately I've been doing many seminars to educate and inspire many in our community. Some of our events are free, some are at charge, but that's just been my agenda thus far, and I hope to continue doing it in 2023.
All right. And then, of course, counselor, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alana Miles. I am the founder and partner of Miles Law LLC. It's a real estate law firm. We practice in New York and New Jersey doing residential and commercial transactions.
And then the co-host with the most, who hasn't been up here in months. I don't know where the hell you been, man. Sean, where you?
Checking along, man. Checking along. So but the thing is, I'm always watching though. Every time I see it pop up, I get in and I watch. So I got much respect for what you do, man. And I like the fact that you have always have Black professionals on, man, and talk about different topics, whether you're talking about finance, whether you're talking about religion, whether you're talking about, like you had before, the Ride or Die, how Black women can be viewed better and, how they don't have to always take on the other mindsets. I mean, what's great about the Deacon podcast, man, is that you don't stick to one topic and you show that we're not monolithic. So I think I appreciate that. It's good to show that we all have different thoughts. That's what's up.
So I appreciate that. And of course, Ebony is still joining us. Ebony, go ahead and smoke up because you're going. She's on mute. She don't even realize she's on mute. That's how she probably hides.
Oh, she's been smoking.
She's been smoking. I said I'm gonna go ahead and dip out because I baked a cake today and it failed, so I have to redeem myself. Because that's just the type of person I am.
Really helps.
You know what?
Exactly.
So we'll talk about that. And remember what I told you yesterday. You make sure you good on 7th, 8th, which one of them dates. So you go ahead and dip out. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you.
Bye, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
So let's talk real estate. So Brian, your app, the app that you have, and everybody can go on into the Apple Store right now. It's on the Apple Store. It's on the Google Play Store. It's called Home Lending Pal. I'm gonna put it in the thing. Put it in the chat.
Put it in there. We are releasing new features. We're preparing this week to release a TikTok-style home search. We have a progress page that will allow you to see how well you fit into different loan products. So if you say you want to work with, say, a Wells Fargo and do an FHA loan with them, it'll give you a better understanding of your likelihood for approval and success with Wells Fargo. And then we're also releasing a reward system where, if you need to improve your debt to income ratio or your credit, as you do so, we will give you cash towards closing up to $3,000. So we're really excited about it, and definitely stay tuned over the next couple of weeks.
And so the reason why I have him on, I met him at a conference back in July, and we were talking about how to figure out how to close the homeownership gap. And his app does that because it takes away your gender, it takes away your race before a decision is made on your file. So you get the decision just based on what they should be basing it on: your credit, your income, your assets, and the collateral. And even on the collateral, it takes away the bias of the collateral of the zip code, I believe. So, but it does that. So that way there aren't any excuses, or there's no, how can I say this in the nicest way? There are no assholes out there playing with your application because you're Black, brown, female. Let me say it that way. And I think it's an important piece. And I'm going to try to support this brother as much as I can and connect him with as many people as I can to get his name out there and this app, because it helps. It helps with the real estate businesses, because you're both realtors, you know, and you want to send your people. If you, let's say you have a client that, you know, maybe on the margins, but you want to get them, you know, different options of financing. Why go to Lending Tree? Why have them put their information in Lending Tree when you can use an app that's built by and supported by a brother who is doing the work for our community? So that's why I wanted him on today and to introduce the app to him. And then for you, Queenella, what are you doing up in New Jersey? Because you just had a huge event not long ago, and one of the guys that I follow on IG, who's very popular, the mortgage guy, he was at your event. So tell us what's going on up there in New Jersey.
A lot. A lot is happening. So we'll talk a little about the event. I wanted to start the coaching business. I've been doing it secretly, privately within my office, and I thought to go public with it. And I went public August, I believe it was August 13th. And I'm like, you know what? I need to do events. I need to get people excited about this, you know, coaching business. And what better way to do it than to have investors come out to educate realtors, because a lot of realtors don't own homes. They don't own, you know, investment properties, even myself included. So I own a home, but it's my primary residence. It's a single family, but I've yet to invest. So I said this would be, you know, beneficial to me as well as realtors. And as I was putting the event together, it just kept getting bigger and bigger. I thought of Caesar, flipping NJ. I thought of MG, the mortgage guy, Welby, At My Best 197. And these are people that are actually involved in the community, not in the community, their communities, but they are also very knowledgeable. They have the strategies that they're not afraid to share. So I did that one event, and MG, the mortgage guy, said, you know, you can't stop now. You got to keep it going. So I was like, oh, all right. So then the following week I had an event. 2 weeks after that, I had another. And then I realized I was doing events like 2 or 3 in a month. And I said, I got to relax.
So these events, what are you doing at these events? What's the topic? What's the conversation with these events?
To be honest, the events, it's all real estate related, but it's deeper than that. So you think about, you go to an event, for the most part, they're trying to get you to sign up for something, right? You have to pay to get in, and then you have to pay for some course that you're taking. It's not the case here. I'm bringing people out into, you know, these venues. We're feeding them, we're educating them, we're getting them ready for the investment world, like what real estate really looks like. We taught people how to make soap, you know, ways to raise capital for real estate. So teaching them how to make, you know, to expand your mind a little bit. Don't just think you have to work a 9 to 5 to actually raise money to invest. You don't have to take your hard-earned money or pull money out of your savings. You can find something to do, something you're talented at doing, skillful at doing, or using your vehicle, Toro, to or having a car fleet, you know, to raise money to invest in real estate. So there's so many other things I'm thinking far out, like how can we even get it into the schools, trying to put a syllabus together to then take it into the schools, whereas after school program to bring investors and realtors, attorneys to go out and educate our children. So these events started off as just entertainment or just educating realtors to now like somewhat of like philanthropy work, you know?
Right. Okay. And Shakika, here in Charlotte, you're doing similar work. I know you've had a few seminars and events. So talk about what you're doing here in Charlotte.
So with me, Queenella, I'm on the opposite realm. I'm doing events, but it's more geared towards first-time home buyers. And so I actually have a coaching and consulting firm called Divas Doing Real Estate. And even though I do coach other brokers in the business, my specialty is working with first-time home buyers and taking them through what I call my designer pathway to home ownership, which is a 90-day program that just does exactly what you just said, giving them the education. I love the fact that you said side hustle, because that's one of our topics is the 10 top side hustles to save for your down payment. And so my goal is really to help women understand that building wealth starts with home ownership, and then of course leveling up to investing. And so I've been doing events now since about 2017, kind of again like you, Queenella, low key, just doing it in the office. And then I started doing vision board parties twice a year in 2018, and absolutely loved it. And just being able to feed into it. I was really disappointed by 2021 when we couldn't do our normal one. So I'm hoping 2023 I can get back at it, but it is just a pleasure to bring people together like you, having speakers from all realms. I start with the spiritual coach that comes in and kind of talks about the mindset, because that's where it all starts. Like, people don't understand that you got to have it up here before you ever execute. Having financial advisors that can come in, having other realtors that come in and talk about the home buying process. And so I think that's key for us to be able to get people in the same room, all of us trying to do the same thing, and not a selling point. So I'm kind of like you. I bring them in, I feed them, I have great speakers. And then at the end, it's nothing that I'm trying to necessarily sell them, but the goal is that I will hopefully resonate with them, and then they'll call me once they're ready. Or if they want to join one of my classes during the year, that's great. But it's definitely that's not how I do the plan. My business coach said I need to do it a little bit differently, but right now it works. And I really love it, because I really love connecting women all on the same page for the one purpose of home ownership.
And then you also have, and you know what, you can tell me to shut up right now, Dante, if I'm not supposed to say this, but come January, you will have a counseling agency, correct? Your counseling agency will be up and running. So HUD certified counseling agency.
Yes. So for the last 3 years, I've been considering what I can do more.
Brian, you hear that? Brian, you hear this, right? So that's why he's smiling, because he knows where I'm going with this. You hear this, right? See, Brian and I have been having conversations. I'm like, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something tonight. So go ahead, Shikika. I'm sorry.
So for probably about the last 3 years, I've just been trying to figure out, one, what I want to do differently. In about 2 years, when I decided to retire from the day-to-day operations of real estate firm and a property management company. And so A Home for Her is my nonprofit. I am really excited about it for a couple of reasons. One is because it's going to give people in the industry the opportunity to give back and support through grants, individuals like myself that are first-time home buyers. And also because my goal is to be positioned in January with HUD, so that we can do some, I guess, what can I call it? Legitimate, if that's what you want to call it, credit counseling, housing counseling,
certified pre-purchase counseling. That's what we're going to say.
Certified. That's my word. Certified. That's right. And so working through those details to be able to move forward in January. So super excited about that. And I actually am having a launch March the 2nd. So hopefully we'll have some connections before then.
I'm sure you all will. Now, counselor, good evening. First of all, I can't get too slick with her, because then she'll start, talking about throwing me in jail and shit. Why is it important to have an attorney represent you during not only your housing search, but also, looking at your title and throughout the process of buying real estate? Talk to me about that.
Having an attorney is always important when you are dealing with a contract. A contract is a legal document. I don't know if in North Carolina, if attorneys are required. In New Jersey, they're not. In North Jersey, it's more preferred. In South Jersey, a lot of parties don't use attorneys. But I always tell, when I do workshops, I think Queenella's workshop in 2020 with first-time home buyers, I let them know that my firm, we make a lot of money off of clients who don't use attorneys and then come to us in the end. And that's not our goal. Mm-hmm. That's not our goal. Isn't to make money off of people. Our goal is to help the community and to avoid that. So I always tell a client, buying real estate, for most people, this will be the biggest investment that you'll make in your life. So you would also want to make sure that you invest in, having a good attorney and having that representation, because while a contract might be standard, or you might read some of the terminology and it might seem simple, there are nuances that you might not understand. There are terms that might be hidden in the language. And while, we at our firm, we review contracts daily, we still read everything line by line, because there's always that one line where there's a discrepancy or where there's a term in there that we didn't expect. And in New Jersey, the attorney review period is very involved. So you go back and forth. Typically there's a 3-day period where you have the opportunity to disapprove of a contract and submit any amendments. But I've had some attorney review periods last for less than an hour, and I've had some that lasted for a couple of weeks. And it's just to ensure that both clients are protected, because once you're under contract, you're bound by that contract. And what you don't want to happen is for your client to lose their deposit. I've never had a client lose a deposit before, but a lot of times when the clients come to me because they didn't use an attorney, it's because their deposit is being withheld and they're trying to get it back.
Problematic. It's always a problem. So Sean, and then Brian also, 2023, we know that rates are high, but rates are normalized, right? We're in an environment right now where 6% rates were the norm. Some of you spoiled people never knew that rates being higher than 3-4%, but 6% rate is the norm. Where do you see 2023 in regards to originations? Because as many of you know, I think the conforming loan limits finally went up to $715,000, or will be going up to $715,000 next week. I've been in the business so long that I remember when a $236,000 conforming loan was a big deal for us. Right. So in 2023, where do you see this going? I mean, Black home ownership is at 43%, which is lower than what it was in 1965. How do we catch up? And what can we do as a unit, as a group, utilizing everybody on this call right now has a place to help bridge that gap. So how do we start collectively coming together and doing this?
So Brian, you want to start? You want me to go ahead first?
No, brother, you go ahead. You started off. You kick us off.
So let me say a couple things. First, I'm a piggyback on something that Shakika said. She said her business coach said, one of the first things we need to do as professionals either have a mentor or a coach. No matter how long we've been in business, no matter how long we've been doing something, whether you're an attorney who has another attorney advising you, whether you're a mortgage broker and you have another mortgage broker or somebody else, you should always have somebody else advising you. And I think it's great when everybody on this call does something a little bit different, but you should always have somebody advising you, because there's always going to be trends that your advisor, your mentor may have seen before, or sometimes it's just good to have a different set of eyes on stuff. And I think like a lot of times when we're talking finance, I talk to Dante and be like, yeah, man, what you think about such and such? And he'll be like, well, I see such and such doing this, because Dante has done a lot more risk than I've done. So when I have a risk question, I go to Dante. I got a real estate question, I go to Shakika. So there's always somebody who can give you more information or can say, hey, have you looked at it from this perspective? Because in professionals, we should always be very thoughtful. When I say thoughtful, we should say, what am I trying to achieve and what does this look like? And so because we're all advising other people, whether we're advising to Queenella, whether we're advising real estate investors, or to Shakika, whether we're advising individuals, in order to close the gap, the first thing we need to know is, do we have the knowledge? And then we're looking at the big picture. And then all of us need to become professionals at what we do and continue, not just continue in education, but continue to grow. Where I see it going, one, there's always going to be there's a shortage problem in real estate. And it's going to be a shortage problem for the next 10 to 15 years. The reason why, when the last crash happened, 2009, 2010, builders were building 2 million homes a year. Once it crashed and they had all the inventory issues, they say, we're not doing that no more. So now, because over the last 10 years, they have only built 750,000 homes a year, there will always be an inventory issue. The fact that the rates have gone up, it's corrected the market somewhat, but there's still an inventory problem. Even though you don't have people putting $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 over asking price anymore, and you're actually getting the house for what it may be actually worth now, you still have an issue with that. As far as rates goes, Dante, you and I have been in the business long enough. Brian, I'm assuming you have too, based on Dante's point. We've been in business long enough that when we started, 8% was a great rate. 12% was standard. So when people say rates are high now, it's just they're not high. They have normalized, to Dante's point. The Fed are going to have to stop raising rates at some point, because it's going to become too inflationary for them to continue to do it. Normally you raise rates to kind of slow inflation, that kind of stuff, but the jumps that they're putting in a full point, 3/4 of a point, that kind of stuff. It's going to come a point that it's too expensive to borrow money from corporation to corporation and bank to bank that they can't lend. And when they can't lend, the market slows. You can't do commercial investing. You can't do normalized personal investing. You can't do in the real estate area. So the Fed's going to have to slow that down and back up off of those type of jumps. You may be able to do a 1/4 point, maybe you do 1/2 point, but they're going to have to slow that by the end of the first quarter, maybe middle of next year, in order for them to normalize that so people can buy. To change the gap between the wealth gap between blacks and whites and the homeownership gap, you still talking 25 years. Why? Because you still have issues where, like we saw with Wells Fargo last year, where somebody with the exact same still social and economic status, the same education, the same income, the same credit, still are getting a higher interest rate. You're still seeing where someone like Shakika, who has a home that may be worth $600,000, and the person down the street's house was just appraised for $600,000, but she has to unblack her house and take all her pictures down of her family and her loved ones for that house not to be appraised for $425,000. And that you still have that systematic stuff that's going on. There's still only 2% of the appraisers are black, only 3% of inspectors are black. These are the people who control a lot of things house. And then even though there's a lot of us mortgage professionals, there's still algorithms that are put into the system that keep black folk from being able to get the money they need. And then with rates going up like this, the money you get from down payment assistance programs do not go as far as they normally would. So that's caused the problem as well. So black people who have built wealth by using our home still don't have access to the same things like a home equity loan line of credit at the same rate and those kind of things that they should get that will help close that gap. And then we as black people still aren't taught on a large scale that life insurance is a financial product as well that you can use to build wealth off of. And the two things that have helped spur economic growth over the course of the last 200 years are life insurance and home equity. Having a house allows you to take their home equity and pay your college tuition so your children can come out of school debt free. It allows you to actually pay off other debt so you have less debt and you can actually use that money to invest. And life insurance, when somebody passes away, it lets you take that money. Like there's this woman I knew, her husband passed away. She hadn't worked in the 10 years they were married. When he passed away, he had a $500,000 life insurance policy. She took that money, she bought 2 investment properties cash. She used that money, that income came in, it redoubled his salary that she lost when he passed away.
It is that is definitely something we don't talk about, but those are great points. And Brian, he just mentioned something about algorithms and how the algorithms cause problems with lending. So go ahead and speak on that and what Home Lending Pal does.
No, I definitely think the brother's hitting on all the right points, man, and we need his voice louder in the community, in the mortgage space as well. The biggest issue is that there less than 3% of the industry is minorities. And then we talk about numbers, there's still only going to be about 400,000 less homes that are sold this year. So it's not really like, people aren't just buying homes. People are still buying homes. And even with interest rates going up, it's really more of a reset. But this fear factor that's being put into the hearts and minds of minorities makes us think that, oh, now isn't a good time to buy. Where our white counterparts that I've met, a lot of them are still buying. They're getting the homes that they want, a price value they want. Even though the interest rate is higher, the actual cost of the home has gone back down because demand has dropped. So they're buying the homes they want, and then they're refinancing in 2 or 3 years, and that interest rate comes back. And I don't think we talk about that in the Black community enough. Is, hey, you can still buy a home right now. Right. That's not going to change the fact that there's still about a $5 million home gap in terms of affordable housing for us. So people still need a place to live. But to your point, a lot of it is around the algorithms that people are looking at, the way that those algorithms are built. And it's hard. It's actually asinine to think that for the last 50 years, there has been all this discrimination that has happened towards really not just Black people, any segment. If you're not a white heterosexual male, you have been discriminated against. Whether you like it or not, there's data that proves that fact. And when you go into this process, it's ludicrous to think that you're going to be treated differently because of your standing. And we've seen it happen over and over again, but yet you go into these conference rooms with these white executives and they tell you, oh, discrimination doesn't happen. My company doesn't discriminate. And maybe they're right. Maybe there is not a level of racism in their company. But really, I think what the true core is that when you look at a loan officer, that is a commission-based position. Most loan officers are paid by commission, which means that they only make money when you close on that home. So if I know that I have the same amount of work for someone that's coming in looking to buy a $200,000 house versus someone that's looking to buy a $700,000 or $800,000 house, which one are you going to choose? Every time you're going to choose the 800. It's common sense. I got a family to feed myself. And so what we're trying to do and what Home Lending Pal is really geared towards is really serving that $200,000 home, allowing that person to still go through that process to validate their income, to validate their credit, and then raise awareness at the higher level to show that, hey, this is something that a person is ready to buy right now. And yes, they may not be buying the $500,000 or $1 million home, but they're still trying to buy a home and they still need that help in allocating those funds and those resources to them. And the only way to do it is to basically raise an alert. And our system really on the back end, as complex as it is on the front end, on the back end, it's really just an alert system that alerts their management, it alerts their lending department. It says that, hey, here's a low to moderate income individual, particularly a minority, that is raising their hand saying that they are trying to go through the home buying process just to ensure they're being treated fairly. And we've been able to see that over the last 2 years, just by doing that, just something as simple as an email, we've been able to have a 41% increase in the number of minorities that actually apply for homeownership successfully, and about a 32% increase in those that actually go on to originate and close those loans. So, we do think that, again, the algorithms can be reconfigured, and it just makes common sense. If everyone looks the same, it's harder to say that I'm being discriminated against. And as a Black man, I can change my credit score. I can change the amount of money I have in my bank account. But I really can't, unless I'm Michael Jackson or somebody, I really can't change the color of my skin.
Hysterical.
Hey, right. Can you put Brian's info back up? Because I was actually writing that down, so I'd have it. Can you put that back up?
Sorry, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's called Home Lending Pal.
I was getting that. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it's Home Lending Pal. We have a artificial intelligence. I call it KEV. It's from a friend that died of a rare form of germ cell cancer in college. Sharika, we give back to our communities. We're working with nonprofit organizations to fund their missions. As 2% of our profits do go back to nonprofit organizations. And really, for us, we're looking at it as they're not going to build our community for us. I've been to Capitol Hill. I've had a chance to talk to the congressmen. They're more worried about remote online notaries, capital gains tax. Like, there was no conversations about closing the home ownership gap. And so we're not going to have an opportunity to build wealth, to create wealth for our people, unless we take the reins and try to do it ourselves. And that's really what, the true mission of Home Lending Pal is trying to do. We're trying to get people that are, supporting that mission, that want that same thing. And we've been very fortunate that there's a lot of consumers that are saying, hey, we know this isn't the completely finished product that you want, the vision that you have in your mind, 2 years from now, but you're on the right path. I see where you're trying to go. And we're connecting to individuals like yourselves on this call that, want to help them find that way to create that wealth and get into that home. So.
No, I told Brian, and I'm just going to say this out loud because I know what he's doing. I told him that the way that his system is set up now, the way that Home Lending Pal is set up and the information that they're capturing, if he wanted to, in 24 months, he could easily be the biggest broker lender out there. Especially
Dante, I wouldn't have believed you until the white folks tried to steal it from me. That is a conversation. I have spoken publicly about it before. I won't talk about it tonight, but
no.
You don't have something until others try to steal it from you, and I believe that more than ever now, Dante. Like I said, when I first met you, I was like, I don't know, but now. I definitely think you're onto something there. So,
bro,
I just sent some folk your way too, man. So
just keep
that's what I was doing. I was sending some people I know who need you. So,
and I have a bulldog attorney. I know you have some bulldog attorneys, so I got a bulldog attorney up there also that will fight with you. And
I need him. Brian, where are you? Where are you, Brian?
I'm in Orlando, Florida, right now.
Okay.
Yeah. What about yourself?
Oh, Charlotte. I'm here in Charlotte.
I'm originally from Fayetteville. I'm a military brat. I'm originally from Fayetteville. 2-6. Stand up.
That's what's up.
There you go. So listen, the reason why I brought everybody here together is because there's a fit, right? Queenella's doing real estate up in New Jersey, New York, New Jersey. I have Shakika. Now, Shakika is a property manager also. She didn't even talk about that piece, because you didn't even talk about that. She's a certified property manager, not one of those people that say, oh, I'm a property manager, I'm going to go collect rents and have no clue what they're doing.
I am a master property manager.
She's a master.
She's a master
property manager. But it's important, right? Because as you're teaching people how to invest, Queenella, they also need to understand that what a property manager does for them and how a property manager can work for them. So things like that, that's why I brought everybody together. Now, for me, people know what I do. They know what I do. They know who the companies that are clients of mine and things of that nature. I think that the mortgage industry right now is there needs to be a seismic shift. I think the credit markets have dried up for a lot of people, especially people of color. I think the credit markets have dried up for people who had some problems during COVID, where their income was curtailed, where they went to forbearance because of income. There was a huge credit event in the last 2 years that no one's really talking about. And we're still in the middle of a pandemic, and people aren't talking about that. So, but what's going to happen to this new crop of individuals that are looking to buy homes where they can't afford them? The prices, the prices are coming down, but the prices are still way too high. And oh, by the way, in some areas, the rent is still too damn high. The rent.
What I was just going to say in.
Rent is very high. So home ownership looks attractive. It looks very attractive. And if you're buying the investment property now in Charlotte, I don't, and I've been in Charlotte a long time, and I don't know if there's a large group or a large inventory of multifamily homes in Charlotte or in North Carolina, period. I know where Queenella is. There is multifamily all day long in New Jersey. I know in New York, outside of Manhattan, if you leave the boroughs alone, get out the boroughs, because listen, if you try to buy a 2, 3, 4 family in Queens and Brooklyn, it's 7 figures plus right now, which is not, even with rents, is really not affordable. But if you look in other areas, Westchester County, Orange County, Dutchess County, Putnam County, you may be able to find you for 2, 3, 4 families up there. So it's important that we teach. Housing counseling agency. She has a housing counseling agency. She's doing coaching, real estate coaching. Sean is a coach. Brian has this algorithm to help people get the loans. Alana's an attorney. These are all the people that you guys need, that the individuals need, the public needs to hear from on that. So in your area, Queenella, what's the market like now for someone looking for a home at the end of 2022 going into 2023?
Honestly, I feel with the headlines, all the noise about the rates going up, it's kind of pushing fear. So many people that were in the market and thought to pull the trigger have taken a step back to figure out what's all the noise about, right? For those that are investors and their experience and they have the knowledge, they're excited about the shift, that there isn't as much competition as there were earlier this year and last year. So they're buying up the properties. Those that are, they have a rate of 3.5% and they're not budging because they refinance. They're taking money out and they're holding it and they're waiting for something to happen next year, meaning foreclosures, short sales. They're looking for opportunities. So I think many are on standby, and the only ones that are really buying are the ones that have no choice. Relocation, divorce, the mortgage is too high and they have to downsize or move out of state. So usually when I hear the reasons, no one's really staying in Jersey. Like, you're not leaving one part of Jersey to move to another part. You're either making an investment or you're leaving.
It is Jersey.
Right.
That's a question, Queenella, and actually interview, because you hit on something that actually made me think. So many people always like saying, I'm gonna want to wait and see if I can get me a foreclosure or a short sale because that'd be a great thing. I don't see there being foreclosures or short sales available because there's an inventory problem. But
if there are foreclosures available right now, it's because they have older loans from back in 2010,
Yeah.
2011,
Yeah.
2012, and they had an event that caused them. But because the forbearance is going on the last 2 years, we probably won't see those cycle through the court for another year, maybe 2 years. You won't. I don't think you'll start seeing that wave of foreclosures come through until the end of 2023, beginning of 2024.
And I don't think there'll be deals, though. I think the market will still bear them as you're going to pay market rate for them, as opposed to
just because of the demand.
Right.
Not necessarily. So I think we have to look at, we don't just throw a blanket over real estate over the US and say they're all the same. There's different pockets that does different things. So in one city, you may see 10 short sales, and in another you may see none, right? So there are some markets, me personally, I've never closed a short sale until this year. It was like rapid. I mean, it was like every other house, short sale. And the banks were approving them. I had one short sale that was approved like $200,000 less than value, market value. So it is possible, right? I think you have to know how to negotiate.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead, Alana. Alana knows because she was on the deal with me.
To that point, though, I think especially in New Jersey, what we experienced was people paying, and Uncle Dante, I mentioned this to you maybe like a year ago.
Really?
Buyers.
That's what you're going to call me on here? Okay, go ahead.
Head Deacon. What I noticed maybe about in 2020, a lot of buyers were coming from New York City and they were overbidding like 100,000 plus. I'm starting to see, and we're not getting into short sales yet with them, but I think that it might get there soon. I'm starting to get for the past couple of months, a lot of buyers who purchased in 2020 are now wanting to sell their homes. And a lot of them are wanting to sell their homes because they came from the city. They wanted to invest in New Jersey, but they didn't actually want to live here. Or investments can seem, they look sexy, but you have to really know how to be an investor, and you have to know how to deal with tenants. What happens when your tenant doesn't pay their rent?
Right.
You'll have to be responsible for your mortgage. So I'm getting especially a lot of multifamilies where sellers need to sell because they can't pay their mortgage because they bid $100,000 over, and that's not what the house is.
And that's one of the things
to add the inspections too. People were waiving inspections, buying properties, and then once they moved in in the summer, and then in the winter they turned that heat on, and pipes are busting, and all types of problems with the heating system, and they couldn't afford it.
Without dropping any names, if they don't do nothing else good, they make sure that's done. Without dropping any names, they don't. If they don't do nothing else good, do anything else good, they make sure that when the people are getting in the house, they're going to be able to afford them, and that if any problems are going on with that house, they're going to know because that inspection was done. And ain't no such thing as waiving no daggone inspection. It is going to be done. And a lot of people, and this is the other thing that, and I know this is a little off topic for Brian, but it's on topic for him at the same time. Buying an investment property is a business. You have to run it like a business. You have to understand that it's a business because you are on the hook for that mortgage, even if your tenants don't pay. Matter of fact, you should be able to afford that mortgage even without your tenants paying. So when the money comes in, it's just your money coming back to you. But if you can't do my philosophy is if you can't afford that outright, don't do it.
Because I agree with that, but I also think your primary residence is a business.
It is.
How many times have you and I talked to someone, and I know, and I don't know how many of you are on the other side of the business. I know Alana, you probably as a real estate attorney. But how many times have we talked to somebody who's behind on their mortgage, and we're like, you probably want to sell the house. And they're like, no, I love this house. This is where my kids grew up, etc. And I understand there's an emotional component, but you would rather lose the house to foreclosure than sell it when you see you can't afford it and make some money and then put yourself in a better condition. You wait until your credit is completely ruined, and then you have to pay all these foreclosure fees that you wouldn't have had to pay if you just sold the house when we were to talk to you. And when we talk to people all the time, as we're guiding them, as we're coaching them, because we're really about conflict resolution as well. Hey, you've lost your job, your spouse has passed away, and you have this mortgage that is unaffordable for you, but you're sitting on $60,000 of equity. Yes, you may pay a real estate fee, and a lot of real estate agents will waive a part of their commission or take 2% instead of 3%. Something along those lines. Because Shakika's like, I ain't waiving nothing. But there are ways for you to not lose your shirt, but you got this emotional attachment, and you don't see your house as an investment, as opposed you see it only as a place to stay. Like, I love my house, and Shakika knows she lived down the street from me. When I bought my house, and Dante, you know this too, because you know what I paid for my house, because you did my loan, and you know what my house was worth. A year and a half ago, somebody offered me $200,000 more than I paid. I was strongly like, yo, I need to sell this because the ROI you can't beat. And I was like, I really like my house and kind of want to stay with here. But had I been thinking, not an emotional point, I should have sold it. At that time.
Well, the problem is,
but I still can get 120 off of 2 years.
Right. The problem with that is, and maybe this is not for everybody in your area, but where are you going to go? You see, because
that's we had.
That's the conversation she and I had, exactly.
my mortgage payment is what a 2-bedroom apartment in Uptown Charlotte would cost, or in Ballantyne, or matter of fact, I couldn't even pay what I pay my mortgage for rent in South Park, where it's close to me here in Charlotte. It's I have a decent sized home, new construction, a year old, a year and a half old. You can't, but what I pay for my mortgage payment is not, you can't even rent. Not here. Definitely not in New York. And I'll probably living in the in the bowels of Newark somewhere and still be paying that much. I'll be in the straight hood in East Orange somewhere, or the bricks for real, trying to live like that for what I pay. So it's double edged. Yes, you might get a great return on your investment right now, but where you gonna go?
Right, you're gonna wind up spending it.
I might wind up in the worst position, and then I'm going to rush out because a lot of people have FOMO, right? A lot of people bought because for the fear of missing out, and they purchased, like Alana said, they may have purchased bad properties. They overbid on properties. They don't have people. I believe that the 2 realtors that are on here right now, and that are they have integrity. They weren't pushing their people into buying properties that weren't good for them, and they'll tell them to walk away. I've seen it. I've seen Alana, even though she'll send me a message at the last second, where she's trying to get people closed and keeping them from losing their money. And it's a good deal. When the deal was bad, I'm like, yo, let them walk away. Just let them go, because it's a bad deal. I've seen Sean do it over and over again. But I think that the credit markets now have dried up so much that I think that, Brian, you have an important piece. And I brought you on really to encourage you in public to keep fighting and doing what you're doing, man, because I think that your tech and your app it's the now, but it's also the near future that people are going to need, especially Black people. We're going to need it because we need a place where we can navigate. That's a safe place for us to shop for our mortgages. That's what I truly believe that.
Thank you, and I hope. I don't hope. I will get it there for us. One of the things, and it is. I know you said investment properties isn't really our kind of focus right now, but it is something that a lot of people have brought up to us, and it was one of the biggest reasons that I partnered with IBM and went to their CEO to kind of talk about this need, because as you guys mentioned, it's such a buying a home, selling a home is such an emotional process. And sometimes we tend to take logic and throw it out the window. But, what if we could have, and we're built on blockchain and this whole digital twin concept, which is basically the simulation of different outcomes based on your current real life circumstances. What if we could show people that, selling this home now versus selling it in 6 months makes more sense for you, or buying now versus buying in 6 months? I know as a business and as a venture funded tech company. I'm supposed to talk about profits right now, growth right now. But I think the true value of what I'm building is actually 2 years from now. When you can take someone that is a technically like a 560, I guess you technically did get approved for a 580, but take someone that is a 560, a poor credit score that has all kind of debt to income ratio issues and everything, and guide them down a process that leads them to home ownership. And when they're ready to talk to someone, but they're not ready to buy, connect them to a housing counselor instead of a lender that's going to sell them a product, or a realtor that's going to sell them a product that they're not ready for. But when they get to that lender and that realtor, they are educated, they are ready, they have everything in order. They are pretty much underwritten at that moment. I think that is truly the future of where we want to go and where I want to go. I think the product is getting there, but like I said, it'll probably be another 2 or 3 years, but I think we have at least the core technology in place now to allow that to happen. Now we just got to stay passionate and keep building now. So
it ain't gonna take it.
Brian, I was gonna say, Brian, I really just want to say kudos to you, because you hit on something that's really important, and forgive me, I have a business coach. I've said that before. One of the challenges I think with our community is that a lot of us spend a lot of time, especially those that are really passionate about the home buying process, that we do spend a lot of time coaching and trying to help people that are at the 560, which sometimes takes away from our opportunity to go after the clients that are already able and willing buyers. And so to have a product like yours that we could say, hey, I can't help you now. I want to. I would love to help you, but let me funnel you through a system that I know can take your hand, walk you step by step. And if in fact you are ready in a year, 2 years, educated, like you said, fully underwritten, come back to me. Let me stay connected with you in some manner, but you take it off the plate of the realtor to do that, because a lot of us do exactly that. And I don't know about you, Queenella, but I know my early years, I spent a whole lot of time trying to get people from 560 to 620 and 620 to 660 just to get them qualified. And what I realized is that I was spending a lot of time with that particular clientele that, again, I want to check too, right? That I could have used doing other things. Not that I regret it at all, but having an app like yours that we could send people to, that walks them through that process and makes them feel like you really have somebody holding your hand in your best interest, versus automatically sending them to, and no offense to anybody, but sending them to like credit specialists or those types of individual, but really giving them a holistic view of how to obtain a mortgage, I think is awesome. So thank you. I've seen the app.
Thank you.
And I'll piggyback on that too, because I think what Brian does is important because of what you just said too. So many of us are taught in the Black community, let's go to this person over here and clean up your credit. And then that person, all he does is dispute everything bad on your credit, of course. They send out all the letters and everything that you can do yourself, and they charge you for it. And I'm not knocking anybody's hustle, because what they're doing for the most part is legal. But what needs to happen, and what you two do, like I really listened to you when you said, a lot of times we get them in and we have a spiritual advisor come in, it's about mindset. Because if you always pay your bills late and you get your credit cleaned up, you're going to go back to paying your bills late. You're still going to have the same issue because you haven't changed the fundamental problem with it. Right. This dude named Dante, named Eric, always says this one thing, and it's the only thing he always says that I agree with. He said people only don't pay their bills for 2 reasons: because they don't want to or they can't. That's it. Now, people you can get into a better position. They can make more money. They can do something about the debt ratio, whatever the case may be. But people that don't want to, until you get to a point where you change their mindset, and until you get on the second part of that, you get them with a credit counselor who's or a counseling agency, not just credit, but credit, budget, debt, housing, everything. That's concerned with getting them into a house and changing their financial situation and changing their wealth and changing what they teach their children, as opposed to somebody who's just counseling because they're getting money from HUD. Because there are certain counseling agencies that all they do is they're going to counsel you to death because they're getting money from HUD, or they're getting some money from the state of North Carolina, or they're getting some money from the county of Mecklenburg, or whatever the case may be. So they're getting all this grant money to counsel you to death, but not providing you comprehensive counseling that gets you towards home ownership and building wealth. So I think some of the things you talked about make so much sense, even back when you said you're trying to change mindsets to get them there. And then the fact that you and Brian are both saying, okay, let's get you on the right path. It may take us some time. It may take you this period to get there. but at least you're doing it the right way, because there's a lot of people doing it not the right way at all. So we're going to leave that alone. You sit down somewhere.
No, don't leave it alone. Speak up. They need to know, because they will try to act like it doesn't happen. Like we're just like equal opportunity means equal access, and that's not the case at all. So.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the work that Queenella is doing in order to help people understand the possibilities for investing, I think that's so important. And I think that starts with good housing counseling. I think people need to recognize you go into a house, it's not your forever home. It's not meant to be there for 30 years. If it does, that's great. But again, what you said, Sean, earlier about, building equity and being able to use that equity. I don't think people fully understand that that's really the importance of buying the first house. I think we skip over that. And I'm fortunate to be a property manager, so I get to have these conversations with people when they're renting and help them understand that, it doesn't make sense for you to spend $1,800 on a, 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom house when you can go buy a home and spend $1,800 or maybe less on a house. I get to do that. And my owners know that, I toggle between both, I guess, my due diligence to both parties. But I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I can have those types of conversations from the time they apply, hopefully all the way through closing on a home in the future. But I definitely appreciate all of the insight here tonight.
Well, but it's cool that you say that, Dante. That's what she said, though. What's cool is, and I think that's why Brian, Queenella, Shakika, and Alana are all important, because what you said was, as a property manager, I get to tell it to my people so that they can become owners.
Right.
Well, I wanted to add something to just to give you an awareness. When we're talking to renters and we're encouraging them to purchase a home, one thing that I think is most important to, me being a mom, what was important was to have a home, and I didn't have to worry about moving from, location to location. So when the hardest thing as a parent is to pull your child out of a school system, a district that they've been in since preschool, and then now in middle school, and you're pulling them out into a totally different district, taking them away from their friends, the education, meaning, coming from the teachers that they're familiar with, right? That's family. So when you pull them away from that and they're in a home, now to ask them to sell their property, it has to make sense. So it's a little deeper than just education. It's a deeper than an emotional attachment to the property. Sometimes it's just the condition or the situation that the family is in. So I think a lot of realtors, which is why I think it's important that I coach realtors, we mess up the experience. We make the experience less enjoyable. It's not as enjoyable because our focus is only, the property and the value, or becoming an owner of a property, not understanding their fears of actually making a move. A renter going from paying $1,400 a month to now $2,200. They've never paid $2,200 a month before. A lot of people, they have a raise on the job, but they're not used to having so much money. So the financial literacy, like, I don't even know what to do with this. I inherited money, or this home, right? A trust account or a property. I don't know what to do with it. So even though someone isn't, in my opinion, the buyer seminars that I do, it's more like I'm like an accountability partner. So we come together, we go on Zoom or in person, like the event that Alana assisted with hosting. It's just to get in front of people and talk to people and encourage them, inspire them, and let them know, like, look, when the time is right, make a move. Most times it's not, but they will refer you to someone else because of the overall experience that they have with you. So with the app you're speaking of, Brian, if it gives an experience of, this is my safe place, this is where I run to for information, and it's not just about numbers, it's more so about, even understanding the neighborhood, because when you buy the property, you're also buying the town and what comes with it. I think education outside of just real estate, home ownership, just everything that circles around that, I think is helpful.
I hear you loud and clear.
And it makes sense, right? And so we're going to continue this conversation offline, so you guys don't go anywhere. I'm going to end the live portion of this because there's some people that have some specific questions, and it's not for live consumption. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you for our first guest, Shanita Hubbard. and her book, Ride or Die. And then thank you to my panel right here that we've been talking to for the last 57 minutes, just talking about home ownership and where the markets are. Listen, if you're looking at buying a home, if you live in North Carolina, if you live in Newark, New Jersey, or, I have two great realtors up here, Queenella Gibson. You can find her on Facebook at Queenella Gibson. Just look her up. And then Shakika Miller McIntyre, Cardone Group. Did I say that right? Did I say the name of your company right, Shakika? If I did, she's not paying
Karen
attention.
Properties.
Yeah, it's Karen.
I said Karen Properties.
Yes, Karen Properties. So y'all look them up, hit them up on IG, on Facebook. If you need an attorney, if you're up in New York, New Jersey, Alana Miles, she don't do shit for free. She's gonna charge you full board. So don't be trying to get no hookup because I saw you on Uncle Dante's podcast. Nah, it don't work that way. You pay full board. And for Brian Young, go out to the Apple Play or Google Store or Apple Store, Google Play Store, Amazon, download, or even on your computer, Home Lending Pal. You can go to Home Lending Pal. Just search for it in your app store. It's going to pop up. Download it. Put your information in there and check it out. See what it does. See what options that it gives you. But nothing can. Try it. Try it. Get that education that you need. All right. We're out of here. Y'all have a good evening. We got some questions coming in, but there you go. Oh, Lord, have mercy. We are not doing no family reunion here. Amber Moore says hello, Alana. I don't know if you can see her comment or not, but she says hello. All right, I'm going. Y'all stay cool. Peace.